Welcome to another explainer. Picture this, a slow, sweeping aerial shot over an incredible 1 to 25th scale world nestled right by the historic waterways of Istanbul. This is Miniaturk. It's a place where hundreds of highly detailed architectural wonders sit shoulder to shoulder, shrinking an entire empire down to a size you can casually stroll through in a single afternoon.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with a welcome to miniature Turkey. Then we're touring the tiny wonders, diving into the politics of small, looking at the revival of the Golden Horn, and finally, getting into the logistics of planning your tiny tour. Let's get started.
Section 1. Welcome to Miniature Turkey, the scale of imagination.
To really set the scene, imagine a massive footprint of 60,000 square meters. It's an incredibly bright, open, and inviting public park, and a full 15,000 square meters of that is dedicated purely to housing this tiny, tiny world.
When you're wandering through the pathways here, there's just this immediate, palpable sense of wonder. You've got kids absolutely marveling at the tiny details, adults snapping close-up photos, and really an entire society interacting with their own heritage, but from the towering perspective of a giant.
Now, here's a really fascinating detail. This park actually had 3 completely separate opening days back in 2003, and each one carried some heavy political symbolism. Opening on National Sovereignty and Children's Day tied national pride right to childlike wonder. And then, the May 29th opening explicitly linked the park to the 550th anniversary of the Ottoman conquest of Istanbul.
Section 2. Touring the tiny wonders, craftsmanship and grandeur.
So the park is essentially a highly curated, walkable geography lesson. It's neatly divided into 3 distinct realms. You've got the works of Istanbul, the works of Anatolia stretching across the heartland, and the works from overseas, which represents the historic Ottoman geography far beyond Turkey's modern borders.
As we stroll past the models, the visual contrasts are just stunning. You can literally see the ancient, breathtaking glory of the Selimiye Mosque sitting right next to the cutting-edge modern engineering of a suspension bridge. It creates this beautifully surreal environment where entirely different eras and regions blend seamlessly into one single landscape.
And the craftsmanship here is absolutely off the charts. We're talking about over 130 structural masterpieces, and every single one is meticulously scaled down to exactly 1/25th of its original size. Because of that strict mathematical consistency, you can easily compare the sheer size of a modern stadium with an ancient temple just by turning your head. It kind of gives you the ultimate Godzilla complex, but without the city-destroying consequences.
Section 3. The politics of small. Modeling citizenship. Panning out from the physical models for a second, let's consider the research of academic Ipek Dureli. She points out something brilliant about spaces like this. The park basically uses that childlike sense of wonder to naturally foster a shared cultural faith among citizens. By putting you, the viewer, in the role of a giant looking down on this safe, bounded little world, it naturally evokes a protective affection for the nation's history. To quote her research directly, she talks about translating the miniature park typology into a viable substitute for the gigantic expressions of state and global capital. So, in everyday terms, this space acts as a comfortable haven. It's an architectural and psychological substitute that lets everyday citizens engage with the power of their nation without feeling totally overwhelmed by it. It sets up this incredibly striking, though impartial, contrast. Out there in modern Istanbul, you've got the towering, somewhat faceless influx of international steel and glass buildings. But inside Miniatürk, you have a localized, culturally inclusive showcase of shared heritage, all perfectly scaled down to the human grasp.
In fact, the park's original promotional brochures highlight exactly how it navigates Turkey's complex history. It neutrally places the secular Republican narrative, like Atatürk's mausoleum, right alongside a deep nostalgia for the Ottoman Empire's massive imperial mosques. It's literally modeling an idealized, harmonious society right there on the grass.
Section 4. Reviving the Golden Horn, a neighborhood reborn. Now, Miniaturk didn't just magically appear out of nowhere. It was actually the anchor for a massive urban transformation. Archival records of the early foundation work show how the Sütlice neighborhood transformed from a heavily polluted industrial zone into a lush cultural hub. For decades, the shores of this estuary were packed with factories, but then major beautification efforts totally changed the game. It definitely wasn't an isolated project. It kickstarted a massive waterfront-wide revitalization. Consider this incredible shift. An old anchor factory became the Coach Museum of Transport, the Sütlice Slaughterhouse, reimagined into a slick Congress Center.
And the Sila Taraga electricity plant was completely transformed into the Bilgi University Arts Center. It completely rewrote the map.
The big picture goal here was transforming the Golden Horn from an industrial eyesore into a globally recognized cultural brand. By placing a beautiful national showcase right on the water's edge, the city successfully reclaimed these historic waterways for a modern global audience.
Section 5. Planning your tiny tour. Logistics for the modern traveler. All right, let's get into some practical, organic travel advice to make sure your visit is as smooth as the tiny Bosphorus. Step 1. Absolutely avoid visiting on Mondays because the park is closed. Step 2. Bring an Istanbul card or a credit card because cash is strictly a no-go at the booths. And Step 3. Combine your visit with the nearby Eyüp Sultan Mosque and Pierre Loti Hill for a perfectly cohesive Golden Horn day trip. As for the budget, keep these 2026 ticket prices in mind. Foreign visitor tickets are currently set at 900 Turkish lira. A full ticket is 330, and the discount or student ticket is 90 lira. Oh, and one vital detail, the standard Istanbul Museum Pass is unfortunately not valid here, so definitely plan accordingly.
If you want the absolute best cinematic light for photographing these tiny masterpieces, and you want to beat the biggest crowds, aim to arrive on a weekday morning. Be sure to download the mobile app if you want to do deep dives into specific models. Also, since the park is completely open air with wide, flat paths, you'll enjoy full wheelchair and stroller accessibility the entire time.
As evening approaches, the sun sets over the estuary and casts these long, incredibly delicate shadows across miniature models like the fairy chimneys. It's in these quiet, beautiful moments that you realize this space is so much more than just a quick tourist stop. It's really a mirror reflecting an entire civilization.
And it leaves us with a genuinely fascinating thought. How do the tiny physical models we celebrate today shape the way we understand our gigantic, real-world history tomorrow? The next time you're standing in front of a massive, imposing monument, ask yourself, how would this feel if I could hold it in the palm of my hand? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you on the next one.